There are moments in life when you don't realize everything is about to change, until it already has. For me, that moment came on a rainy Wednesday evening, as I sat in my home office, sipping on a lukewarm cup of coffee, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. Rebecca, my wife of 7 years, had left an hour ago for her weekly tech workshop. She had started attending them about 6 months back, claiming it was part of her new role at work. Something about staying ahead in the industry. First, I admired her dedication. But lately, something felt off. It wasn't just the workshops, though they always seemed to run late, often past midnight. It was the way she had started guarding her phone like a dragon hoarding treasure. The sudden, unexplained shopping trips for new clothes, dressier than what she'd usually wear for work. The extra effort with makeup on nights she just wanted to learn more about coding. But I pushed those thoughts aside. I was just being paranoid, right? After all, Rebecca had stood by me through thick and thin. We had built a life together, a home. I had no reason to doubt her, or so I thought. That night, as I sat at my desk reviewing some reports for work, I noticed a notification pop up on my screen. It was from our smart home security system, an automatic alert from the voice detection software I had recently installed. Unrecognized voice detected in living room. Audio saved to cloud storage. I frowned. An unrecognized voice? That was odd. Rebecca and I were the only ones who lived here, and I hadn't been in the living room all day. I clicked on the file. The first few seconds were just silence. Then, there was a faint rustling sound, a soft giggle, and then, clear as day, Rebecca's voice. "You really shouldn't be here right now." A deep, male voice responded, "Relax, babe. Liam's working as always. He won't know." The coffee cup in my hand nearly slipped. I sat there, frozen, my pulse pounding in my ears. The voice was unfamiliar, but something about it tickled the edge of recognition. My stomach twisted into a knot as my fingers moved on their own, rewinding the clip, playing it again. "Relax, babe. Liam's working as always." The casual tone, the confidence, the way he spoke my name like I was some joke. It hit me like a freight train. Eric, my tech consultant, the guy I had hired a year ago to upgrade my company's security systems. The guy who had spent hours in my office, chatting with me about business while sipping the coffee I made for him. The guy who, now, was apparently very comfortable in my living room. I played the clip again, this time catching something else. Rebecca's hushed laughter, followed by a whisper I could barely make out. "You're such a bad influence, Eric." And then, the unmistakable sound of a kiss. The breath left my lungs. My hands clenched into fists as my brain tried to rationalize what I had just heard. Maybe it was innocent, maybe I was misinterpreting, but deep down I already knew. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't insecurity. This was betrayal. And the worst part? I had no idea just how deep it ran. I stared at the screen, the audio clip playing on repeat in my mind. My hands trembled slightly, hovering over the keyboard, but I wasn't sure what I was even looking for. A part of me, the stupid, hopeful part, wanted to believe this was some misunderstanding, that maybe I had misheard. Maybe I was being crazy, jumping to conclusions. But the rational side of me, the one that had built a business, navigated high-stakes deals, and spent years reading people like open books, that side knew the truth. And the truth was like a knife twisting in my gut. Rebecca was cheating. And not just with anyone. She was cheating with Eric, the man I had trusted, the man I had brought into my company. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It had a professional angle that I couldn't ignore. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling a shaky breath. I had two choices. I could lose my mind right here and now, confront Rebecca the moment she walked through the door, demand answers, and probably end up in some screaming match that led to nothing but broken furniture and shattered illusions. Or I could play the long game. I clenched my jaw. No, I wasn't going to go in blind. I needed proof. Not just for myself, but because something about this didn't sit right. Why Eric? Why him? Why risk everything when she had me, her husband, the guy who gave her a life of security and comfort? The more I thought about it, the less sense it made. There was something deeper at play. and I was going to find out exactly what it was. First things first, I pulled up our smart home system's cloud storage. The system recorded only when motion or unfamiliar voices were detected. I scrolled back through past alerts, my heartbeat hammering. 3 more clips. I clicked on the earliest one from 2 weeks ago. "You sure Liam isn't home?" Eric's voice again. Confident. Comfortable. Rebecca's response was a breathy laugh. "He's never home this time of night. And if he was, we wouldn't be here, would we?" A thud. Then silence. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the edge of the desk. The second clip was more of the same. "You like sneaking around?" Eric asked. "Kind of," Rebecca admitted, her voice playful. The final clip, from just 3 nights ago, had me nearly breaking my mouse from how hard I was gripping it. "Eric, stop. I need to leave soon." "Relax," Eric murmured. "You love this." Silence. Then, unmistakable sounds. Sounds I had no business hearing. Sounds that made my vision blur with rage. I slammed my laptop shut. My pulse roared in my ears. All right, I had enough proof to know exactly what was happening. But I still didn't know why. So I did what any sane, betrayed husband with a background in cybersecurity would do. I hacked into Rebecca's life. Started with her phone. She wasn't home, which meant I had a window of opportunity. I had installed remote access software on our shared devices months ago. Not for spying, but as a precaution in case either of us ever lost our phones. With a few keystrokes, I was inside her device. Her texts were clean. Too clean. Either she was deleting everything or she was using an encrypted app. I moved to her emails. Bingo. An exchange with Eric. The subject line alone made my blood turn to ice. Data transfer confirmed. Need next steps. What the hell? I clicked on the thread. Rebecca? Eric, I don't like doing this. What if he finds out? Eric, relax. He won't. You said it yourself, he never checks his company's data logs. We have everything we need. Rebecca? This is serious, Eric. If this gets traced back to me. Eric? It won't. The files are encrypted. And once the deal goes through, you and I are free. No more sneaking around. No more Liam. I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. This wasn't just an affair. This was corporate espionage. Eric had used his access to my company, to steal data. And Rebecca? She had helped him. Suddenly, her late-night workshops, her secrecy, her paranoia, they all made sense. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was helping Eric rip me off. This wasn't just a betrayal of our marriage. It was a betrayal of everything I'd built. I exhaled slowly, my entire body thrumming with rage. I could burn it all down right now. Call her. Call him. Confront them both. But that would be too easy. I wasn't just going to catch them. I was going to destroy them. And the best part? They had no idea what was coming. The anger wasn't fading. If anything, it burned hotter, more controlled. Rebecca and Eric thought they were playing me, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. They weren't just cheating. They were stealing from me, and I wasn't about to let them walk away unscathed. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to focus. If I wanted to take them down, I couldn't act impulsively. I needed to be smarter than them, more calculated. I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to make sure that by the time I was done, they had nothing left. If Eric had been using my company's system to transfer sensitive data, that meant there were logs he thought I'd never check. Big mistake. I accessed the admin panel of my company's server, scrolling through the activity logs. It didn't take long to find Eric's footprints. He'd been careful but not careful enough. He had accessed encrypted financial reports and proprietary software blueprints, things that no tech consultant should have access to. I copied everything. Every timestamp, every unauthorized download, every single traceable move he had made. Then I crafted an email to Corporate Compliance Department from Anonymous. Subject: Potential data breach, internal investigation required. Dear Compliance Team, I recently discovered unauthorized access to confidential company files. These logs indicate that an external consultant, Eric Matthews, has been transferring sensitive data. Attached, you'll find evidence of these actions. I trust you will take appropriate action. Best, a concerned employee. With one click, the email was sent. Eric wouldn't even see it coming. Now, I needed Rebecca to dig her own grave. She and Eric were planning something big, something that would set them free. That meant there had to be one final move. I scrolled through her emails again, looking for anything that hinted at when this was supposed to go down. Then I found it. A meeting invite. Friday night. Private dinner reservation. Rebecca had labeled it as Tech Workshop Special Session. Right. A few more clicks, and I had the location. The Valencia Hotel, room 1206. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. If they thought this was their final move, they were dead wrong. I wasn't going to wait for them to celebrate. I was going to ambush them. With everything falling into place, I needed to ensure Rebecca saw the evidence with her own eyes. Not just of the affair, but of Eric's real betrayal. I downloaded the most damning pieces of Eric's leaked data transfer and packaged them into an email. To Rebecca. From anonymous source. Subject. You should know the truth. Rebecca, since you enjoy sneaking around, here's something else you might want to see. Eric isn't just cheating with you. He's cheating on you. He's been using you as his scapegoat. If this data breach gets traced, guess whose name is all over the logs? Yours. Check the attachment. You're not his partner. You're his pawn. Best, someone who knows. I scheduled the email to send Friday at 7 p.m., just before her meeting with Eric. Then, I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. The stage was set. Rebecca was about to have the worst night of her life. And Eric? He was about to lose everything. Friday arrived, and with it, the weight of what I was about to do settled in my chest. This wasn't just about catching Rebecca cheating anymore. That part, as painful as it was, had become secondary. This was bigger. It was about revenge, justice, and making sure they paid for every lie, every stolen moment, every betrayal. I spent the day playing my role to perfection. I went to work like nothing was wrong, sat through meetings with a calm expression, even exchanged a few casual texts with Rebecca. She responded like always, short, polite, like a wife too busy to engage in conversation. It made me sick. By lunchtime, I received confirmation that my email to the corporate compliance team had hit its mark. They had flagged Eric's activity and were launching an internal investigation. The hammer wasn't going to fall immediately. These things took time, but the process had started. Eric's days at my company were numbered. At exactly 7 p.m., my second email, the one to Rebecca, was scheduled to send. I imagined the moment her phone lit up while she was sitting at the hotel bar, sipping some overpriced cocktail, waiting for Eric. The confusion, the shock, the slow unraveling of everything she thought she had under control. But that wasn't enough. I needed to see it. So I drove to the Valencia Hotel. I had no intention of confronting them outright. That would be too easy. I wanted to watch it all crumble in real time. The lobby was bustling with weekend travelers, couples checking in, business professionals nursing drinks at the bar. I walked in like I belonged there, dressed in my usual business casual attire, and made my way toward the elevator. I knew exactly where I was going, room 1206. It was a suite because of course it was. Eric wasn't just some side fling to Rebecca. She had built a fantasy around him. A future, a new life, one where I was the fool, the one left in the dark. But not tonight. I reached the 12th floor and moved toward the far end of the hallway. The room was quiet, the do not disturb sign already hanging from the handle. Typical. I took out my phone and pulled up the hotel's guest Wi-Fi login page. Hotels weren't exactly fortresses of digital security. With the right software, which I had, I could gain access to the connected devices on their network. A few taps, and I was scanning for anything that belonged to Eric or Rebecca. There. 2 active devices. One was clearly a laptop, the other a phone. I focused on the phone first, deploying a quick script that forced a device reset. It was a dirty trick. The screen would flicker, log her out of her apps, forcing her to re-enter passwords. Right when she'd be panicking from my email. I imagined her confusion as her screen glitched, notifications popping up, messages she wasn't expecting, pieces of her perfect plan falling apart. Then, I turned my attention to the laptop. Eric's. I couldn't access his files directly. He wasn't stupid enough to leave things unprotected. But what I could do was flood his screen with alerts. So I did. One by one, email after email from my compliance team started popping up on his desktop. They had begun their audit. Someone was onto him. I stepped back, heart pounding, waiting. And then, from inside the room I heard it. Rebecca's voice, sharp, panicked. "What the hell is this?" Eric muttered something I couldn't make out, but his tone was different now. Not playful, not arrogant, nervous. A chair scraped against the floor. "You told me this wasn't a risk," she hissed. Silence. Then, Eric's voice low and cold. "What did you do?" I leaned against the wall, smirking. "Oh, Rebecca, you really thought Eric was your escape plan?" She had no idea. Inside, their voices rose, accusations flying. Rebecca was unraveling, realizing that I knew, that someone had tipped her off, that she had walked into this hotel thinking it was the start of something new, only to find herself trapped in a nightmare. And Eric? He was realizing something even worse, that he was being watched, that the company he had stolen from was onto him, that his entire career was on the line. I pushed away from the wall, adrenaline surging through me. This was only the beginning. Let them fight. Let them break apart under the weight of their own betrayal. By the time the dust settled, neither of them would have anything left, and I would be standing right where I belonged, on top, watching them burn. The moment their voices started to rise, I knew I had them exactly where I wanted. I stood just outside room 1206, my heartbeat steady, my hands in my pockets like I was simply waiting for an elevator. No one passing by would have thought anything was off. Just another guy loitering on a hotel floor. But inside that room, Rebecca's world was imploding. I could hear her flipping through what I imagined were printed documents, her voice getting sharper by the second. Panic. Eric, on the other hand, was trying to stay calm, but there was an edge to his tone now. Tension. Fear. This wasn't the romantic night they had planned. This was chaos. Rebecca's voice cut through the door, raw with confusion. "What does this mean? Why are they investigating you?" Eric was scrambling. I could picture him, running through every possible lie, trying to come up with something that didn't sound like total bulls. "It's not what you think," he muttered. "Just some procedural audit." Rebecca wasn't buying it. "They're saying it was my login. My name is on the system logs." "Eric." I grinned. Of course it was. Because Eric hadn't just used her. He had set her up. I had already pieced it together when I went through the security logs. Every unauthorized download, every transfer. It had all been done using Rebecca's credentials. Which meant that when the investigation came down, she would be the prime suspect. Not him. Her. Rebecca wasn't stupid. She was catching on fast. No, you told me no one would trace it. You said." Eric cut her off. "Shut up for a second." His voice was sharp now, losing patience. "We don't even know who sent this email." I chuckled under my breath. "Oh, but you do." The silence that followed was electric. I imagined Rebecca staring at her phone, scrolling back to the anonymous message I had sent her at 7 p.m. "You're not his partner. You're his pawn." She was probably running every conversation, every moment, through her head now, realizing what I had already figured out. Eric never cared about her. She wasn't some great love affair. She was a convenient cover. Rebecca gasped, her voice trembling now. "Oh my God, you set me up." Eric groaned. Like this was annoying more than anything. "I didn't set you up. Don't be dramatic. You used my login. You made it look like I was the one stealing." A loud thud. Something, maybe her phone, hit the table. Rebecca was spiraling. I decided it was time to push things a little further. Pulling out my own phone, I scrolled to the burner number I had set up earlier that day, and I sent one final message. "Unknown number. Look outside the door." I hit send, pocketed my phone, and leaned against the wall, waiting. It didn't take long. From inside the room, I heard Rebecca suck in a breath. Oh my God. Who is this? They just sent me a text. Eric muttered something, moving closer. What? Another pause. Then, footsteps. They were coming. I pushed away from the wall just as the door ripped open. And there she was. Rebecca froze the moment her eyes landed on me. Her face drained of color. Her pupils were wide. Her lips slightly parted. Like her brain couldn't process what she was seeing. I smiled. Slow. Cold. Hey babe. Her breath hitched. Liam. Eric appeared behind her, and the second his eyes met mine, he knew. He knew. The blood drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. His entire body tensed, like a cornered animal. I tilted my head, my smile never slipping. What's wrong, Eric? I asked, voice calm. Too calm. Didn't expect me? Rebecca made a choking sound, stepping back. Her hands were shaking. You? She swallowed hard. You knew. I laughed, low and quiet. Oh, sweetheart. I've known for a while. Eric snapped out of his daze, trying to recover. He squared his shoulders, his lips pressing into a tight line.
Allricht, Mann.
You need to calm down. Calm down. I echoed, stepping forward just enough to make him take a step back. I am calm. And I was deadly calm. Liam. Rebecca tried again, her voice breaking. It's not what you think. Oh. I raised a brow. You mean it's not you sneaking off to hotels with this piece of trash? I jerked my chin at Eric, who flinched like I had hit him. It's not you giving him access to my company? Not you lying to my face for months. Rebecca was shaking. Eric, the coward that he was, tried to deflect. Look, man, we can talk about this. I cut him off with a sharp laugh. Oh, we're gonna talk, all right? Just not here. Eric frowned. What do you? His phone buzzed. And that's when everything really fell apart. I watched him pull it out, and the moment he looked at the screen, his face completely collapsed. Rebecca saw it too. What is that? Eric didn't answer, so I did. That? I said, stepping even closer, lowering my voice so only they could hear. Is my compliance team informing you that you're officially under investigation for corporate theft? Rebecca whimpered. Eric's jaw clenched. You didn't think I'd find out? I mused. You thought you could steal from me? Use my wife as a shield. I let out a small chuckle. You really thought you were smart, huh? Eric backed up. I stepped forward. Rebecca was staring at him now, something shifting in her eyes. You told me this was safe, she whispered. Eric didn't respond. You told me nothing would happen to me. Her voice cracked. Eric's gaze flicked to me, then to her. And in that moment, I saw the exact second he made his decision. The coward's decision. He turned on her. Look, this was your login, he said, his voice suddenly sharp. If anyone's getting in trouble, it's you. Rebecca's mouth fell open, and I smiled, because this was exactly what I wanted. Let them turn on each other. Let them destroy each other. I had already won. I leaned in just enough to whisper so only Eric could hear. You should run. Eric's breathing turned shallow. He knew what I meant. And then, he did exactly what I thought he would. He ran. He shoved past Rebecca, bolted down the hallway like a man being hunted. Rebecca stood there, stunned, shaking. I tilted my head, staring at her. Tough night, huh? Tears pooled in her eyes. Liam. I smirked. See you at home. Then I turned, walking away. I wasn't done with her yet. Not by a long shot. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I should have felt victorious. I had just torn their pathetic little world apart, had watched the moment Rebecca realized that Eric never cared about her, that he had thrown her under the bus without a second thought. I had seen the raw betrayal in her eyes, the sheer panic when she realized I wasn't just some clueless husband. I was the one pulling the strings. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because as much as Rebecca might have wanted to believe she was just an unlucky fool in love, she wasn't innocent. She had still chosen to betray me, to lie to me, to sneak around in the very home I built for her. And now she had to face the consequences. I barely parked the car before I heard the tires screeching behind me. Rebecca had followed me home, just like I knew she would. I stepped out, taking my time as I watched her stumble out of her car. She looked wrecked. Hair a mess, mascara smudged, her breath uneven as she slammed the door shut. "Liam!" she cried, rushing toward me, her heels clacking against the pavement. I just stood there, waiting. When she reached me, she hesitated. Probably because I wasn't reacting. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't demanding answers. I wasn't breaking down. I was calm. Too calm. She swallowed hard, searching my face. "Please, just listen." I stepped past her and walked inside. She had no choice but to follow. The second the door shut behind us, Rebecca let out a shaky breath. "Liam, please. I swear, it wasn't what you think." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Really?" Because from where I was standing, it looked a hell of a lot like you were sneaking off to hotels with another man while helping him rob me blind. She flinched at my words, her lips parting, but I wasn't done. "You didn't just cheat, Rebecca." I turned, staring her down. "You let that snake use you as a cover. You gave him access to my company. You helped him steal from me. Do you have any idea what that means?" She started shaking her head. No, I didn't know." "Bull." She choked on a sob. "I swear, Liam, I thought he told me it was just minor access. He said it wasn't a big deal. That it wasn't stealing?" I cut in, voice sharp. "Are you really going to stand here and tell me that you, a grown woman, had no idea what you were doing? That you just blindly followed whatever Eric told you?" Her jaw clenched, but she had no response. I took a slow step forward. "Tell me something, Rebecca." My voice was eerily soft. "Did you love him?" Her breath hitched. "What?" "You heard me." I tilted my head. "Did you love him? Was that what this was? Some fairy tale affair? Or were you just bored?" Rebecca blinked rapidly, fresh tears spilling over. She looked away, exhaling shakily. "I don't know." I felt something inside me snap. "You don't know?" I repeated, my voice laced with disbelief. "You risked our marriage, my company, for a guy you weren't even sure about?" She looked at me then, and I saw something new in her eyes. Not just regret, fear. Because she knew. She knew I wasn't just angry. I was done. She took a cautious step closer. "Liam, I made a mistake. A horrible, horrible mistake. But please, I don't want to lose you." I scoffed, shaking my head. "You already did." Her face crumbled. I turned away and walked toward the kitchen, opening the cabinet where I kept our important paperwork. The divorce papers were already inside, printed, signed, ready. I pulled them out, turned, and set them on the counter. Rebecca's face paled. What? You want to prove you're sorry?" I crossed my arms. "Sign them." Her breathing was ragged now, her body visibly trembling. "Liam, please. We can fix this." I raised an eyebrow. "Fix it?" I let out a humorless laugh. "Rebecca, do you have any idea how stupid you sound right now?" I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice. "Even if I could somehow forgive you for sleeping with Eric, do you think my company will just magically forget that you helped him commit corporate theft? That there's a paper trail leading straight to you?" She swallowed hard, looking away. "Here's how this is going to go," I continued. "You sign those papers, you take whatever settlement I give you, and you leave." Rebecca let out a quiet sob, covering her mouth with her hand. I ignored it. "Because if you don't?" I gave her a cold, empty smile. "I will make sure that the entire world knows what you did. I will drag your name through the mud. I will make sure you don't get so much as a credit card approval after this. And when Eric is arrested, I will make damn sure the investigators know that you were just as involved." Rebecca collapsed onto the bar stool, her head in her hands. "Liam, please," she sobbed. I didn't blink. "Your choice, Rebecca." The only sound in the room was her shaky breathing, the occasional sniffle as she realized what I already knew. There was no way out of this for her. Not anymore. After what felt like an eternity, she finally reached out with trembling hands, picked up the pen, and signed. I exhaled slowly, nodding. Smart choice. Rebecca wiped at her eyes, sniffling. So, that's it. I picked up the papers, glancing at her one last time. That's it. And then I walked away, leaving my ex-wife in the ruins of everything she had destroyed. The moment Rebecca's pen scratched against the paper, sealing her fate, something inside me finally settled. Not satisfaction, not closure, just a quiet, icy certainty. I had won, but I wasn't done. Rebecca sat there, staring at the divorce papers like they might disappear if she just wished hard enough. Her hands were still shaking, her breath uneven, but I didn't care. She had made her choices. Now she had to live with them. I picked up the papers and folded them neatly into a folder. I'll have my lawyer process everything by Monday. Rebecca sniffled, gripping the counter like it was the only thing holding her upright. Liam. I didn't want to hear it. I turned toward the door. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. I stopped. For a second I almost laughed. I turned back to her, shaking my head. You didn't care enough not to. She flinched. Good. I didn't wait for another excuse. Another plea for forgiveness that would never come. I walked out, closing the door behind me. But I wasn't finished yet. Not with her. And definitely not with Eric. I spent the next hour making calls. First to my lawyer. I wanted the papers filed immediately. No delays, no loopholes, no last-minute reconciliation attempts. Rebecca was going to be legally removed from my life as fast as possible. Second, to my company's compliance team. They confirmed what I already knew. Eric was done. Security had already been sent to his office to confiscate his credentials, lock him out of our systems, and escort him out of the building. He was officially terminated pending legal action. But that wasn't enough. I needed to see it. I pulled up to my office just in time. Eric was being marched out by 2 security guards, his face pale, his jaw clenched in rage. A small crowd had gathered, employees whispering, staring, watching the downfall of a man who thought he was untouchable. I leaned against my car, arms crossed, waiting. When Eric spotted me, his entire body tensed. He knew. I smirked. Rough night? I asked, loud enough for the onlookers to hear. Eric's nostrils flared. You. Me. I straightened, stepping closer. You thought you were so damn smart, didn't you? I lowered my voice, just enough for only him to hear. Stealing from me. Screwing my wife. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? His fists clenched. I almost wished he'd throw a punch. I'd been waiting for an excuse to knock his teeth in. But Eric wasn't stupid, not completely anyway. He forced himself to relax, trying to keep up the illusion of control. I'll find another job, he sneered. You didn't ruin me. I laughed. Oh, Eric, you really think this is just about your job? He faltered. I took another step forward. You're being investigated for corporate espionage. And guess what? The authorities love cases like this. White-collar crime, tech fraud, federal charges. I tilted my head. You're looking at years. Panic flickered in his eyes. And the best part? I added, smiling coldly. I made sure Rebecca's name was all over the logs. His expression dropped. I leaned in, dropping my voice to a whisper. She's going to flip on you the second she realizes she could go to jail. Eric finally looked scared. I clapped him on the shoulder. Good luck, buddy. Then I walked away, leaving him to drown in his own disaster. When I got home, I expected silence. Instead, I found Rebecca in the living room, packing a suitcase. Her movements were frantic, jerky, like she was holding back full-blown panic. She must have gotten the call. I leaned against the doorway, watching. Going somewhere? She froze. Then, slowly, she turned, eyes red-rimmed and wild. They called me, she rasped. They said I'm under investigation. I said nothing. Rebecca took a shaky step forward, desperate now. Liam, please. You have to help me. I raised an eyebrow. Why would I do that? She grabbed my arm. I'll tell them everything. That it was Eric's idea. That I didn't. Pulled away. That's not my problem. Her face crumpled. Liam, please. I exhaled slowly. This was it. This was the moment she finally realized. She had no one left. No husband.
No lo ver. No escape.
Just consequences. You should run, I told her, echoing the same words I had whispered to Eric. Before they come knocking. She let out a broken sob, her hands covering her face. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. Without another word, I walked upstairs, leaving her alone in the ruins she created. Tomorrow she would be gone, and the only thing left of Rebecca Matthews in this house would be a bad memory. The next morning, Rebecca was gone. No note.
No goodbye.
Just an empty closet and a half-packed suitcase she must have abandoned in her panic. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, my bedroom now, taking in the quiet. The weight of everything settled over me, but it wasn't grief. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was relief. Downstairs, my lawyer called to confirm that the divorce papers had been processed. By next week, Rebecca would be nothing more than a legal footnote in my life. At noon, I got another call. Eric had been arrested. Corporate fraud, data theft, all of it was sticking. And just as I predicted, Rebecca had thrown him under the bus the second the heat turned up. It didn't matter. He was finished either way. I hung up the phone and looked around my house. Felt different. Lighter. For the first time in months, I breathed. I had lost a wife, a marriage, a past I once thought was solid. But I had won my future. And that was worth everything.